tour, or put a multiplier on it, and then have an HDR tour. So we're pretty excited about that. I'd like to get something like that lined up, I know, for Jim and Blue Lava Media. But yeah, as far as announcements go tonight, folks, we've been doing great with these webinars and having a lot of fun, getting some just incredible feedback. Remember, the formula is Q&A is next week, and that's going to be covering our SpiderLink Accelerator, also known as a virtual tour blog. And the virtual tour blog is a great way for you to go in and build powerful backlinks to your tours with your Real Tour Vision tours, so that they build rank on real estate agent name and address. So that Q&A session is going to be next Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, same station here at RTV. I don't have any other. Actually, I do have one more announcement. We recently we put out a survey in our last newsletter, and thank you to all that voted. We much appreciate it. We had a lot of votes on who would like the social networking buttons on by default. I'll tell you guys that are out there listening. Real Tour, Alex, Alex the Bee chimes in there. Thanks, Alex. Yes, a lot of people did want those social networking buttons turned on by default, and the majority ruled on that one. It was kind of a landslide, so which I'm actually happy about too. So we're going to probably be doing a lot more of that. So keep tuned in. We're going to be doing a lot more voting as we roll out different technologies. So turn it over to Ben, ladies and gentlemen. HDR, Ben Noor, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Jason, very much. All right, so let's get started here. And Alex, why don't we just start real quick with brief history, your background as far as getting started in photography and doing virtual tours.
Well, back in junior high, I took a photography. That's probably the first time. Oh, not that far back? No. In my particular case, Baker Bee Solutions, we really started off in the web sector, producing websites for small businesses predominantly. And back when I sold my own house, I wound up picking up 4 real estate agents as clients who really liked what I was doing marketing-wise. And this was really at the onset of virtual tours, and I had put together a website, a web page for my house with pictures and text and a whole bunch of other things. As it turns out, that's actually what wound up selling my house, because the buyer of the house was out of state. The cousin came through the house. He called him up, said, "Hey, go to this website. Look at the house." He flew in the next day and bought the house.
Oh, wow.
That was sort of my introduction to the concept of how powerful the web can be in terms of marketing properties. And after I started working with these 4 real estate agents, I wound up working with one of the brokers doing some technology consulting. And during the process, they had asked me to evaluate virtual tour technologies. And when I did my homework, I basically came up with Real Tour Vision as the best alternative. And I presented that to them and said, hey, why don't you bring somebody in-house and do this and, pay them, a college graduate wage and have your own person do this. It'll be the least expensive way to do it. He said, no, I don't want to do that. And so I said, fine, I'll do it. And I was half joking. And he said, great. And I said, oh, okay. And so, I started off with prices that undercut Circle Pix, which, after the first year, I realized that I was giving him a 3-scoop ice cream cone for a 1-scoop price.
Oh, there you go.
And basically doubled my price in the next year. So I was way above Circle Pix because we were delivering such a better product, such a better solution. And, my history in photography was really that of an amateur. We took family photos. My family was one that, everybody had a camera basically, and anytime you went to a family event, somebody was taking pictures. And so I just had a very fundamental background in photography, nothing extraordinary by any means. And when I talked to him about the deal, he was like, "That sounds great, Alex," And I talked to Jason. He said, at the time, this was about 5 years ago, Jason. I don't know. He said, the Olympus C7070 is a great sort of starter camera. And so I went out, and as it turns out, my wife had done some research before that to find a family camera, and we had already bought one of these cameras.
Oh, wow.
And so I literally started doing the virtual tours using this Olympus C7070, a compact zoom camera.
I remember selling those.
Yeah, I mean, at the time it was like a $400 camera.
Yeah.
And then, later on I brought on photographers, and I went to go find the C7070. Well, it had been discontinued by then, so I got one off of eBay. So now I have two. But what I realized very quickly was the C7070 was powerful enough and wide enough to give me the results that I needed. But as I started using it more and more, eventually, believe it or not, I blew the internal flash in the C7070, which forced me then to get an external flash.
Oh, okay.
Well, what happened was after I got the external flash, I realized I should have been doing that all along, because it gave me so much more flexibility in the terms of lighting and controlling it, so I could, if you saw something in a mirror, a big mirror, and it was really dark, you could actually angle the flash toward the dark part behind you, so that when you took the picture, it was much more balanced.
Yep, absolutely.
So, as I got going, I was using that for a while, and then we switched to a Fuji FinePix S9000, which was an okay camera, but again, I had some photographers that were working for me, and I needed to give them a camera, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money, because they get broken and all that kind of stuff. So I handed them, some of those, again, using an external flash. But then I did something which is a little bit unusual or unique or whatever. I actually invested in an elevated tripod. So a 60-foot tripod. The challenge with that was I could no longer use my C7070. I had to get a camera that had active preview. And with active preview, it allows the camera to communicate with the computer, and therefore I could put my camera, my active preview camera, in this case it was a Canon 40D, with an SLR 10-22 lens, which is a super wide lens, and put that at the top of the tripod, push it up 60 feet up in the air, tether it by the way of a USB cable to my computer, and actually control the camera using my computer.
Good.
So that's kind of
they give you those aerial shots that really make a big difference.
And we'll look at one of those in just a little bit here.
Sounds good.
But that's kind of how a brief synopsis of how I kind of got started. And really for me, the whole camera aspect of things, it's funny because I've talked to people that I know that are professional, like wedding photographers and people like that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me is that I haven't run into anybody yet who's a quote-unquote professional photographer that really went to like college for photography. Everybody that I know that's a professional photographer, again, that does things like weddings and everything else, they're basically self-taught. And what I found is that it's a lot of trial and error. Read your manual, look at some of the photo magazines, but really just play with your camera. Take photos at different exposures, different settings, and just learn your camera. And if you can do that, anybody can take great pictures.
Yeah, there's, and I always encourage everybody when they're getting started, especially if you're getting a new camera, always experiment with it. Nothing beats having the knowledge of how to use the tools you possess, because I have seen people that use point-and-shoot cameras and people that use digital SLRs, and for the ones that don't know how to use a digital SLR, I have seen those with point-and-shoots outperform them simply because they know how to use their camera, they've experimented with it, and know what settings to go with. So that's a good point. That makes a big difference. Great. Well, hey, as we're getting going here, Alex, let's see here. Let's just kind of move forward here a little bit. I'm going to go ahead. Do you have some of your HDR samples pulled up?
Well, yeah, I have some stuff I can pull up here.
All right. Just so that everyone knows here, we've also got Daniel Lee with us tonight from Canada, and Daniel's going to be replacing Bob Busser here as a